This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with SB Sports. We're delighted to be joined with Ireland's newest professional boxer, Matthew Tyndall Jr. How are you, Matthew?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, it's fantastic. I guess it's been obviously it's I will say as well understand throughout the interview. It's sort of like a busy time, sort of like a quiet time for a few weeks now before the pro scene obviously picks up again. I think obviously over the next 14 weeks there's about five shows in Ireland. So it's obviously busy
Yeah,
time. So it's good enough Sunday to be able to relax than anything else.
yeah,
But I'm sure for you, you're probably still in a buzz. Obviously, it's a couple of days now since that obviously you'd announced you were turning pro. I'm sure your phone's been
yeah.
off the hook.
Phone hasn't stopped buzzing all for the past 2 days. Yeah, um, yeah. I can't wait to get going. There's no set date yet, but that doesn't matter. Whenever it happens, it happens. Hopefully, it be November-ish, December. But it takes a bit longer. I don't mind. I'm just gonna keep getting ready. So whenever it happens, it happens. I'll be ready for it.
Exactly. And I guess that's the thing is like I guess with anybody as a sort of interview for the first time, Matthew, I sort of like to go backwards and sort of figure out sort of more behind the person. So obviously you're only
Yeah,
20 now, so it's probably easier for you sometimes, maybe as from interviewing others as a bit older. But what age did you get into boxing, and I guess obviously why get into boxing? Was it sort of like your mum and dad sort of maybe seeing it as a form of self-defense, or what got you into boxing?
my family's been boxing for years. My dad was a boxer. My granddad actually opened up Bry Boxing Club with Pete Taylor, and from then on, my dad would box, and he trained with Katie and all. And then I remember the first time I was about 4 or 5 going down to the Bry Boxing Club when Katie Taylor was training by herself with Pete, and I remember just from then on was that like I was hooked to it, and obviously with boxing in the family, I was always going to be a boxer. And when I went to the gym that day watching Katie, I knew obviously I was very young, but I knew I was into it, and from then on I haven't stopped.
So
So
what
it's been
I was going to
sorry,
say,
go ahead.
what age were you obviously when you first went to the club in Bray then?
I was about 4 or 5. I remember me and my dad were only going for a walk down the beach, and he brought me in to have a look at it. And then from then on, we were going in every single week, and then for years, then we are just continued boxing.
So you sort of pretty much it's quite a long time. So I'm guessing probably from that early age, you've always seen Katie Taylor as an idol, do you? Because obviously
Yeah,
seeing someone that was going through, and I guess obviously everybody knows the story of Katie and what she had to do to get boxing in the Olympics and things like that. Like you probably nearly still feel starstruck that you know Katie, but obviously what she's
yeah.
been through in her career, like I don't think in Ireland in any sport anybody's achieved as much as Katie Taylor.
She's the greatest Irish athlete of all time, without a doubt. And it's great knowing that she's from the same area as me. Like we live about 2 minutes away from each other. And it's great knowing that someone that has the same, like we've been living the same way. Do you know what I mean? That someone like that can get that far. So it gives me a lot of hope that I could get that far as well. And she's just setting strides for not just women's boxing but for all boxing. And it just brings great like nights for people from Bray too, for big nights for Katie, and hopefully in the near future I'll be there to do it too.
And obviously talking obviously on your own career then. So obviously from getting into it at an early age, at the age of 4, when did you sort of have your last fight? So I'm probably maybe guessing what 9, 10, maybe you're able to do exhibitions. When did you have your first competitive fight?
I was 11. The Dublin Leagues Championships. I won my first fight by stoppage, and then the second fight I went in, and I thought I won the fight well, and the judges gave it against me 2-1, and I didn't. I at the time when you're young, you don't realize what's happening, and then Dublin were sending a team away to Newcastle for a select, and he selected me because I was the better lad. And then I won there, and then the Dublin Championships, the qualifiers for the All Irelands were then a couple of weeks after. So I fought the lad then that got the decision over me, and then I beat him well. Like there was no question. Then I went down and I got a quarter, semi, and a final in the All Irelands, and I won that. But I remember waking up on the final day and I was sick. I couldn't move, and then I just had to dig deep. And I remember then the next couple of days after that fight, I was in bed. I couldn't move. I literally put every bit of ounce of energy I had into that fight, and it was enough to get over the line. So that was the first one.
Obviously, at the age of 11, I guess sometimes when you look at, I guess there's two different types of sort of losing. Obviously, you've got the really bad losers, or take it really, really bad, and we know the amateur scene can be terrible for obviously robberies and everything else. It gets the same way as pro boxing is. But obviously, at 11 years of age, obviously suffering your first defeat as a boxer, how did you take it? That obviously were you just like, at the time, the better person won, or were you a really bad loser about it? Did that spur you on even more?
Yeah, I knew it was a bad decision. So, and I remember walking away, and I cried because you don't like losing. I'm not. I don't like losing. Everything I do, I want to win. So I went back to the gym. Then we worked on certain stuff that we needed to work on, and then we improved, and then we just kept improving. And then exactly what people like champions do, you come back stronger after a loss, and that's what I do. That's what you need to do.
The signal's just breaking up a wee bit there. I'll just wait just for it just to obviously jump out a wee bit again. So obviously, 9 years, I guess, obviously, I guess when we look at COVID and stuff as well, maybe some of obviously that, obviously for anybody wasn't really able to box sort of within that time.
Yeah,
So, but obviously you're 9-time obviously Irish champion. So, there's probably not a lot more, I know there's ones obviously I have more success, but it sort of shows that you've built an amateur pedigree up. Obviously, you've represented obviously
yeah.
Ireland, like that, and the schoolboys and things like that. So, do you feel now at the age of 20 that you're obviously well prepared, sort of coming into the professional scene? How do you feel obviously that experience of being an amateur has helped you to move into the pro ranks?
The experience of the amateurs means so much. I don't think you could just jump straight into the pros. I think you need that amateur pedigree behind you to go far in it. And thankfully, I succeeded at that. Um, I just before COVID, I qualified for another European Championships and the World Championships, and I didn't get to go away to them. But the World Championships was the only tournament that I never got to fight in as an amateur. That it didn't hurt, but like Joe, you had a chance to medal at it, and you got that taken away from you. But yeah, from after COVID, I only had one or two tournaments, and then I knew I wanted to turn pro straight away. Then, it took time. I got a few injuries, and then I'm ready now. I'm nearly ready to like fight soon. So training's gone great, and the weight's great now. So can't wait for it.
And I believe you had just over 100 amateur fights. I think from what Jay was telling me, I think maybe a record 95-7. Would I be right in saying that would be a record?
Yeah, there's a lot of wins. A lot of wins against very good lads. Me and my dad were actually talking about it yesterday. Every All Ireland Championships I fought in, there was either two or more Irish champions in the way, and I'd always get the hard side of the draw. I'd never get the easy one. But looking back at it now, it's made me into a better boxer rather than fighting the easy sides. It's built the character that I needed to build for this stage of my career, and it's going to play a big part in it when I get into fights that I'll have to dig deep and other stuff for the future.
And obviously looking at some obviously your notable wins, obviously there's a few pros obviously in there, and obviously George Bance that obviously beat in an Ireland England. Obviously fight, I think it was an Athy, Stephen Kearns, and obviously the big sensation obviously in the American side of things at the moment, obviously Callum Walsh as well. So when you sort of look, when you fought these guys and they've turned over, have you been sort of keeping a close eye on their careers and going, that can be me, that can be me, that can be me? You've beat
Yeah,
these guys, in the competitive fights and everything else. So do you look at them sort of guys as inspiration or markers for where your career is going to go?
yeah. Of Stephen Kearns is a good friend of mine for years, through the Ireland teams, and it was just we went into the same way, and that's what happens. But even after, we're still good friends. Fair play to him, he's doing well, and same as Callum. I wasn't really in the training camps with him because he was a couple of years older than me. But fair play to him as well. He's really doing well. He has a belt and all now, and fair play to him. But yeah, when I look at them, I know I'm better than them, and I know I have a lot more in my arsenal, and I know that I can like do what they're doing.
But when you look at obviously, and I think is it your younger brother as well about boxes as well? Do you feel a pressure to sort of keep the family tradition going with boxing, or has it got to this stage now? Obviously, 9 years boxing, that it's just second nature to you now. Do you feel that sort of pressure from the family? Is that a good motivational thing to have when you don't feel like training? Your dad's going, come on, get your bag, let's go. You obviously have the gym at the side of the house there as well, so you have no excuses.
Um, no, there's no pressure. I'd say there was a bit more pressure on my little brother to live up to what I was doing as an amateur. But he went out and then got a European silver medal, and now he's a couple of time Irish champion. So he's built his own little like legacy thing, and so he's not like in my footsteps, and I'm happy that he done that. But no, there's no pressure on whatever. This pro decision was my decision. It was no one's decision. I'm the one that made the final decision, and I'm happy that I did now, and it's gonna be good.
Do you feel a sort of, I guess, like a sort of weight in your shoulders, maybe obviously with your brother now, where he's going to look to you, probably as younger brothers always do look to older brothers for obviously inspiration and everything else. With you turning pro now, that you obviously need to be that idol for him in the pro box in the same way Katie Taylor was for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try keep him with me every step of the way, so he's learning. So it's not when he turns pro, it's not gonna be a brand new thing to him. It's the same as the amateurs. Everything I done, he was there with me. So I'm not gonna just like drop him and let him like feed for himself. I'm gonna help him along too. We're always like that. He'd help me too. It's not just because I'm the older brother. I'm still learning off him too, because he has attributes that I'd like to bring into my game, and it's the same with him. I have attributes that he'd like to bring into his game, so we feed off each other, and it's good that we're like that together.
And obviously as an amateur as well, obviously you obviously represented Monkstown and obviously Dublin Docklands. Obviously, speaking obviously of Dublin Docklands, what are obviously an amateur setup in particular they obviously have their the reason I sort of say it is obviously Pierce O'Leary, who obviously I know you've sparred quite a few times,
Yeah,
and Emma Brennan are both making their way in the pro game. Do you sort of look to people like Pierce? And I know Pierce is always very grounded, comes home and
yeah,
spars everybody and everything else like that. Do you look to these sort of guys as the inspiration coming from the Docklands now that you can follow in their footsteps? Pierce is making obviously a big obviously wave for himself, obviously signed to Frank Warren and Emmett Brennan obviously with the Olympics. So you sort of have the balance of both. Do you look to these guys for inspiration that you turn over?
yeah. Pierce, I've always looked up to Pierce when I was younger. As the trip that I was talking to you about when I went to Newcastle when I was only 11, I remember he was on the team. And I remember when I won, I knocked the lad down in the fight. And I remember after the fight, he grabbed me by the shoulders and he was joking, like, well done and all. And that there, I remember looking up to him from that day on. And then I remember the tournament, the under-18s that I beat Callum Walsh in. I remember we're half thinking whether to do it. I don't know. We're like, will we do it or not? If we're a bit young or not. And then remember Pierce told us to go for it. He believed in us. He was telling us we could do it. And then we went in and done it. And then he was the first person on the phone when we won it. He was over in Mexico and he was screaming down the phone when after the fight. And it was good to have his support because that spurred me on. And looking at him now, it's unbelievable. Look what he's doing. He's someone that I've always looked up to.
There would be similarities maybe between the two of you. Obviously, you're both extremely talented boxers, but you're also calm and relaxed and sort of maybe, keeping it within yourselves, obviously. And I guess sometimes if that brings out the best in the boxer, I can see obviously similarities between yourself and Pierce, that you are quiet and reserved, but obviously you bag loads of talent. Can you see the comparison there that obviously could have between yourself and Pierce?
Yeah, we're not as you say, we're not loudmouths. We're quiet. We're respectful, and obviously being training beside Pierce for years, you let that kind of mentality grows on you. It's a champion mentality, and the way he trains is unbelievable. He trains with 100%. So when you're training, you're trying to match him, so you're improving so much as well. And he's it's great.
He's a
When
special talent and a lot of time for Pierce. I guess um, obviously with turning pro, obviously at the age of 20, we're seeing more and more people, even younger now, obviously turning over. Did you ever have aspirations of the Olympics and things like that, or is it because of all the uncertainty now and whether after 2024, whether obviously Olympics is going to be part of obviously the amateur code? Was that one of the reasons why you maybe looked at going pro, or was it maybe looking at others and going, I can make my own path as a professional and get to the stage of getting paid, rather than obviously continuing on with an amateur setup and maybe getting a bad defeat, having to wait a year to right the wrongs? What was your reason behind turning pro?
it was the Olympics, obviously, is everyone's dream when they start boxing. But as I was getting older, that dream was kind of fading. Not, I knew if I really put my head to it, I probably, I'm not saying I would have reached it, but I would have been in contention to being at the qualifiers, I'd say. But then when I was getting a bit older, 15, 16, 17, I knew I wanted to be a professional. And it was only about timing, um, growing, maturing. And I feel like this is when I'm ready to do it. But yeah, it's my goal and dream was always to be a pro. Like the majority of my amateur days, I was focusing on kind of obviously focusing on amateur boxing, but in the back of the head is the main goal is to be a good professional.
And who would you say, who would be your go-to sort of on YouTube to sort of, to look at fights? Who would you sort of, as much change when you first started, like your favorite boxer you like to watch and try and replicate? Has that changed much for you in the last 15, 16 years? Who would you sort of look to now? Obviously, other than the likes of Katie, who else would you sort of replicate your sort of style on?
Um, I really like Shakur Stevenson and I really like Crawford. Both of them, there's nothing flashy about them. It's all just perfect, like say just jabs, straight shots. There's no like making a fool out of themselves. They just get the job done, and that's the way I like to box. I don't like to be all flashy. Um, it's good. I sit down for hours and watch them too. You learn so much just by their simple shots. Like as I said, jabs, 1-2s. It just it's great to see. And yeah, them two. I remember Shakur Stevenson even when he was an amateur watching him in the Olympics and all. And yeah, I've looked up to him for ages. And same as Crawford, he's unbelievable as well.
Probably two fighters that I would probably say that would be up there as my favorite. So they seem to be obviously very, very defensive minded, but obviously, they can obviously the catch and counter, obviously you miss and they'll make you pay sort of thing. And Terence Crawford's a 2-weight undisputed champion. I think Shakur Stevenson is 2-3-weight world champion now. Obviously now
Yeah,
at
yeah,
lightweight. So great fighters to obviously have. And I guess, if you can get the 50% of what they've achieved, you've been doing well for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. And what I like about them, they're not the. You think going pro or being a professional boxer, you need to just have blood, guts everywhere, like cuts, big wars. These lads show that you can make your money, you can win your titles, and you can have a big fan base by actual clean, lovely boxing. And it's not all about that. Them two have showed that, and that's why I like it, because that's what style I kind of have. I wouldn't be calling for wars. If you have to get into a war, I'll get into a war, but my main focus is making them miss and then making them pay. So it's good to watch them, learn off them.
And I guess a good thing, obviously, if you've that sort of style as well, you're not going to get any bad cuts or anything like that.
Yeah,
When was the last time you seen Terence Crawford or Shakur Stevenson obviously having cuts in their face? It doesn't happen.
you, no, you don't.
So I guess obviously the signing pro then obviously Jay Byrne, obviously, who we know, obviously, and obviously have followed, over the last 7 years, and he sort of had a comeback again. Then, why obviously was it Jay Byrne Promotions that he got involved with? Is it? I guess Jay's obviously been someone that's he's around from the Braid direction as well. Was it? So it's always someone you've known and someone you've trusted. Why Jay Byrne Promotions?
I've known Jay for years now. When he had the gym in the Bray Bowling Alley, and then we trained down there quite a lot for just boxing sessions, and he'd always be supportive of us. And then recently, I got about, and then now we moved to a different place in Bray as well. So I train there every day, doing cardio and strength training with him, and he does my diet plans and my everything like that. About 3 or 4 months ago, I was up at 210 pound, 95 kilo, and I had nowhere to go. I was half thinking about walking away from boxing, because the further I was getting, the further I felt I was getting away from boxing again. And I knew the only person that could help me was Jay with my nutrition and my weight. And not only that, the mental health side of it, he's helped a lot with that too. And I texted him one night, and he straight away he said 100% come down to me on Monday. He has all the plans written out. And then since then, I've lost 40 pound. I'm down a lot now. I'm only a few kilo away from my fight weight now. Um, he's really helped in every aspect, and I can trust him. That's one thing that I really like. And we've all become close, my family and his. And yeah, there's no brainer with going with him. It's someone that you can trust, that wants the best interest at heart. So it was no brainer going with Jay.
I guess in boxing sometimes as you'll even know an amateur, you always have to select the right team and the right people to guide you. And Jay's been there, he's obviously had his fights on matchroom cards, he's fought some of matchroom's best prospects, finished all obviously unfortunately on obviously the Wasserman show a few weeks ago. Obviously he didn't get the win, but he didn't expect he was going to get to that level again. It was more of a few fights for himself. So and I know Jay lost quite a bit of weight as well. I'm guessing now obviously losing over what nearly 3.5 stone in the last few
Yeah,
months. I'm guessing those obviously has helped you quite a lot in feeling yourself again. And this news of turning pro makes it even
yeah,
better.
exactly. Yeah, everything's just falling into place now. When I first started with Jay, I was still hesitant of if I was boxing again. I just wanted to lose weight for my own confidence and my own health, like mental health and all. Got back, and then about a month and a half into it, I was a good bit of weight down, and I started doing a bit of training sessions with my little brother in the gym here, and then I started feeling the hunger again, and I knew I wasn't gone. I knew I wanted the box, but I just didn't know because the weight. And then every week we're hitting target. Every week I'm just getting. I've never been Honestly, I've never been as hungry in my life to get back in the ring. I feel like I can't wait to get back. It's exciting.
Definitely is, and I guess when you get that pro news as well, I'm sure you've sort of been having itchy knuckles and stuff since it. So
Yeah,
I just want to fight now, and you're maybe talking, what, 2 or 3 months away from obviously making your debut as well. What weight
yeah,
will you campaign at? Obviously, as a pro, I guess you're not going to be at your full true fighting weight straight
yeah.
away. Obviously, you're going to work your way down. But what's the weight class you'll obviously aim to campaign at when you turn over?
I'm gonna start at welterweight, and then I'm gonna gradually bring it down to light welter. But yeah, that's a healthy weight for me right now. For the debut, maybe my second, third, fourth fight, and then from then on, I'm gonna be making light welter. But same as my amateur days, light welter. Um, so it's not all about crashing the weight off. It's just about gradually bringing it down, and then that way it'll be healthy, and I won't be killed making the weight.
And obviously in regards to obviously training, well, obviously you still keep, because obviously I know Emmett obviously has Jimmy helping him in his corner in the pro ranks. Who will be training you obviously as you turn over?
My dad will still be my head coach, but Jimmy Halpin is gonna be there. Basically head coach too. He's and Vinny Mulhall, and them three are gonna be my corner. They're three great boxing men. My dad's been there from the start. I can trust him with everything. Same as Vinny, he's been there since my boy won All Irelands. And Jimmy, we start training together about he's he like the amount of stuff you learn off him is unbelievable. The the quality that he's brought into my game is unbelievable. Um, he's the greatest Irish boxing coach ever, in my opinion. That's how good he is.
Jimmy's definitely a legend, obviously, in boxing. And obviously, I know that Jay said obviously there's not going to be any rush. At obviously 20 years of age, you're in
Yeah.
no rush. Obviously, you can have a very long career in boxing. What sort of goals have you starting to set yourself? Obviously, I guess it's just getting the first fight out of the way. But what sort of goals and aspirations are you setting yourself in turning pro?
I want to obviously get the debut. That's a big one. And then I want to get my fights down. I want to get to about 8, 9, 10 and 0. Then I want to fight for a Celtic title. Then when I get to about 12, 13 and 0, I want an Irish title. And then 15, 16 and 0, whatever that is at that time. I'd like to go for maybe an intercontinental or international title like a WBC or IBF or whatever. But and then obviously if it all works out, a world title. But like obviously there's gonna be blips in the road there. It's not gonna all be plain sailing like that. But that's my plan, and that's what I'm gonna go for.
And I guess when you sort of look at, Irish boxing, obviously as a whole, obviously I'm not sure, obviously how much you study on a daily basis and things like that, but we've already had 9 shows, obviously in the north and south this year already. I'm by Katie Taylor's obviously rematch with Cameron in November. That'll be the 14th to 15th show. You couldn't be joining the pro scene at a better time. There's shows
Yeah,
constantly, and I know Jay's talking about doing shows in next year as well. Like, what a time for you to turn pro. You could nearly fight every 6 weeks, probably at the moment if you wanted
that,
to.
that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to be as active as possible. I want about 6, 7 fights a year. I don't want to be just sitting around. I want to be fighting. Obviously, if regarding injuries and all or whatever, I want to be fighting every 2 months, maybe 3 months. I want to be active. I don't want to be just sitting around. So the more active I am, the more I'm improving and gaining experience in the professional game.
And I guess obviously you've quite obviously a fan base probably as well there. Obviously, I'm sure. Are you looking forward to the selling the tickets and things like that? You've never probably had to do that before, so I guess it's good to have someone like Jay. It's been there and done it. That obviously knows
Yeah,
what it's like. But everybody in Dublin boxing seems to be well supported. So I'm sure obviously your fan base will grow as the more fights you'll get.
yeah. The thing about Bry here, everyone, one if say me, Katie, my brother, they'll all support you. they'll all be there behind you. So it's great that I'm in a small town like this. And yeah, I'm not really in Dublin, but I have a lot of Dublin support. And it's great. Yeah, so my phone's been hopping off the past few days, texting me about tickets already, and I don't even have a fight date. Hopefully it'll be soon, but yeah, I feel like I can sell a good few tickets, so it's gonna be good.
Definitely. Well, Matthew, obviously, I guess obviously sometimes you don't expect to get too much out of someone, obviously in a first time interview, but obviously we've reached the end of obviously the interview with you today. Obviously, I want to thank you for your time. Obviously, I
Thank,
know you'll be starting your process for getting your license and things like that, but obviously we wish you well in that, and hopefully it'll not be too long before we're catching up and getting another chat. And who knows, to that stage, you could have a fight date and everything else they got locked in. But thanks very much for
hopefully.
your time. And
Thank,
obviously forward to catching up with you very soon.
thanks. Can I say thanks to my sponsors, Tougher and NXT Nutrition as well. They've helped a lot. Just helping with my daily nutrition, and my training gear and my fight gear will be sponsored by Tougher. So thanks to them.
Definitely. Well, listen, Matthew, thanks very much for your time. Obviously, we hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon.
Thanks, you too.
Cheers, take
Bye.
care. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye.